It all started the night before Ned Stark was meant to die. He was locked in that cold cell, deep inside the Red Keep. The stone walls were damp, the air smelled of mold and old blood. His body ached from beatings, but his mind was still sharp. He thought of his daughters, he thought of honor, and he wondered if all this suffering had even meant anything. That night, someone came. Not Varys, not a guard. It was Tyrion Lannister. "I'm not supposed to be here," Tyrion whispered, holding a torch, "but I think it's time you and I do something unexpected." Ned looked up, confused. "You? Why would you help me?" Tyrion smirked. "Because I'm tired of this twisted game. My family wants blood, and I'm not in the mood to play executioner. Plus," he added, "I think you and I, though different, see the truth clearer than the fools upstairs." Ned didn't answer right away. He didn't trust Tyrion, but his choices were limited. If he stayed, he'd die. If he left, maybe he'd have a chance. Maybe he could keep fighting, just not here. Not in this cursed city. "How do you plan to get me out?" Ned finally asked. "Simple," Tyrion said. "Gold, bribes, and lies, my 3 favorite tools." That night everything moved fast. Tyrion had paid the guards. A secret tunnel built long ago by a mad Targaryen king led under the city and out toward Blackwater Bay. A small ship waited for them. Ned hesitated at the dock. "My daughters. They'll be safer without you right now," Tyrion said. "I'm sorry, but this is war. You can't save everyone, not yet." Ned's heart broke, but he nodded. He stepped onto the ship, leaving behind everything he knew. They sailed east. Quiet at first, both lost in thought, but by the time they reached Pentos, something had changed between them. A strange respect grew. Tyrion drank less. Ned spoke more. "You could have left me to die," Ned said one night. "I could have," Tyrion replied, sipping wine. "But then what? Let my sister rule with madness in her eyes. Let Joffrey grow into a monster." "And you think I can stop them from here?" Ned asked. Tyrion chuckled. "No, but together, maybe we can build something, a new way, a force they don't expect." In Pentos, they found an old ally, Illyrio Mopatis, the rich merchant who once sheltered Daenerys Targaryen. He welcomed them with fake smiles and hidden motives. "You bring trouble," Illyrio said, "but trouble makes profit." They stayed hidden. Ned trained with a sword again, his body healing. Tyrion made connections, using his silver tongue, to charm sellswords, captains, and spies. He drank, yes, but now it was balanced with purpose. News came slowly from Westeros. Robert Baratheon was dead. Joffrey sat on the throne. Sansa was a prisoner. Arya missing. Robb Stark had raised the North in rebellion. Ned's heart burned. "I should be there," he said, "fighting beside my son." "You can't help him." "If you're dead," Tyrion reminded. "We need an army. We need power." Illyrio had a plan. "There is a girl," he said, "across the narrow sea with dragons." "Dragons," Ned scoffed. "Those are stories." "Not anymore," Tyrion said. "I've heard the rumors too." Ned wasn't sure. He didn't trust Targaryens. But time was running out. The war in Westeros was growing. Lannisters were slaughtering. Robb was marching. Chaos ruled. So they set sail again, this time heading toward Slaver's Bay. To find the girl with dragons. Tyrion had one thought. "If we can't beat the lions in there, then maybe we feed the wolves from the sky." And so the former hand of the king and the dwarf prince became something else. 2 broken men chasing fire. But fire has a cost. And in Essos, nothing comes without a price. The sea turned black as they sailed east. Not from storm or sky, but from the weight they carried. Ned Stark, once Warden of the North, sat on a rocking deck with his head bowed, watching the horizon like it would deliver justice. Beside him, Tyrion Lannister leaned back in his chair, his wine untouched. For once, they were headed toward a name both men spoke quietly. Daenerys Targaryen. Ned didn't like the idea. Her father burned people alive, burned my kin. Why would I trust his daughter?" Tyrion's voice was calm. "Because she's not her father, and because she has something no one else has, dragons. But what makes you think she'll help us? We're strangers, and worse, Lannister and Stark." Tyrion looked at the waves. "Because she needs Westeros as badly as we need her." They reached Meereen after weeks of rough sailing. The air there was thick and heavy, soaked with heat and the stench of a city built on old bones. Slavery had been crushed by Daenerys, but the scent of blood still clung to the walls. They didn't meet her immediately. No one did. She was no longer just a girl. They heard stories of her walking through fire, of dragons burning slavers, of armies freed by a word from her mouth. She was building something different, a kingdom made from ashes and chains. "She's young," Tyrion said, "but she has vision. That's dangerous and useful." Ned watched the unsullied march in perfect silence. "She rules with fear." "She rules with fire," Tyrion corrected, "like a dragon should." When they were finally summoned, they were brought through golden doors into a throne room that felt more temple than hall. And there she sat, Daenerys Stormborn, silver hair cascading down her back, a sharp light in her eyes that saw through everything. "You have traveled far," she said, "but I am no fool. One is a Lannister, one is a Stark, and you come together. That alone is madness." Tyrion stepped forward, bowed clumsily. "Your Grace, madness is the only currency left in Westeros, and I have a feeling you plan to spend it wisely." She studied him, then looked at Ned. "You served my father, then you helped kill him." "I served the realm," Ned said quietly. "Your father was mad, and I tried to protect the innocent. I failed." There was silence. One of her dragons, Rhaegal, growled from the shadows. Daenerys didn't move. "And now you come to me for what?" "An alliance," Tyrion said. "You want the throne. We want to destroy the people who sit on it. That makes us friends, or at least useful enemies." "And why should I trust either of you?" she asked. Tyrion smiled faintly. "Because we've lost everything, and people with nothing left are the ones who risk everything." Daenerys didn't answer right away, but she didn't burn them alive either. Instead, she offered a test. "There is a city to the east," she said. "The masters there still. Trade in flesh, they mock my rule. Free that city. Show me your strength. If you survive, we'll talk again." Ned looked at Tyrion. "We're errand boys now?" "Oh, we're still alive," Tyrion whispered. "Let's try and keep it that way." So they rode to the city, New Valizar, a fortress of gold and cruelty. The slavers there were brutal and well-armed, and Daenerys didn't send her unsullied. This was a test of them alone. Ned became a soldier again. He took up a blade, not ice, his old greatsword, but something lighter. His age showed, his wounds slowed him, but his heart was steady. In the quiet before battle, he sat beside Tyrion and spoke softly. "I never wanted this." "Neither did I," Tyrion said. "I wanted books and wine. You wanted snow and family. But here we are." The battle was short, but ugly. They didn't have numbers, but they had fire. Because when things turned bad, when Ned's side began to fall, when the slavers surrounded them in the square, Tyrion lit the fuse. He'd smuggled wildfire, had been buying it in secret across ports since Pentos. And when it blew, it painted the city green with flame. People screamed. Stone shattered. Slavers ran. Ned stood in the middle of it all, blood on his face, watching the fire consume. He wasn't proud of it. He wasn't proud when they returned, and Daenerys smiled. "You understand fire now," she said. "Good. You'll need it." Tyrion bowed again. "Then we have an alliance?" "We have a beginning," she replied. In private. That night, Ned sat alone. Tyrion found him as usual with a flask. "You did well today," Tyrion said. Ned shook his head. "I burned a city. They would have done worse to others, Tyrion said. Ned didn't speak for a long time. Then he said something that surprised Tyrion. I'm starting to see why Stannis looks so cold. You fight long enough, you stop. Feeling anything? Tyrion nodded. You either lose your heart, or it turns into something else. They drank quietly. Outside, dragons soared in the night sky, shadows over a burning world. And inside, two men from Westeros began to understand. They weren't just trying to save their home. They were becoming something else entirely. The heat of Meereen never left your bones. It lived in your skin, in your breath, even in your sleep. Ned Stark had never felt it before. He came from a place where snow fell even in summer, but here the heat was constant, and it made everything feel slower. He wondered sometimes if that was why people here chose violence so quickly, because patience melted with the sweat. He stood at the balcony of the Great Pyramid, watching the streets below. The people cheered Daenerys' name now. They praised her for ending the slave trade in New Valizar, even though they didn't know how it was done. The truth wasn't something rulers shared. Behind him, Tyrion walked in with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Another council meeting, he said. She wants us there, wants us to meet her new friends from Korth. Ned turned. Friends or flatterers? Tyrion shrugged. Does it matter? Gold looks the same, whether it comes from honest hands or bloody ones. The throne room was full now. Daenerys sat high on her seat of black stone, her dragons asleep nearby. Around her stood men and women in colourful robes, all of them speaking. Sweet words, offering ships, supplies, promises. And there, among them, stood a man who made Ned's jaw clench. Varys, the spider. He bowed low to Daenerys, but his eyes flicked to Ned and lingered. Tyrion noticed too. His smile faded. I thought he died with the last ship that burned, Ned whispered. He always finds a way to crawl back, Tyrion muttered. Daenerys introduced him like an old friend. Lord Varys has been gathering support in the East. He believes in our cause. I believe in peace, Varys said smoothly, and in the right ruler bringing it. Ned stepped forward, his voice calm but hard. You once served a mad king, then you served his killers. Forgive me if I don't celebrate your loyalty. Varys gave a small bow. I go where peace can grow. Sometimes that means walking through fire. Daenerys watched the exchange, amused. You're not in Winterfell anymore, Lord Stark. Here, even shadows speak. That night Tyrion knocked on Ned's door with a bottle in hand. He looked tired. He's going to twist her, Ned said, pacing. She's already twisted, Tyrion replied, sitting down. But not broken. Not yet. You still believe in her? I believe in whoever has the dragons, Tyrion said, honestly. And for now, that's her. Ned leaned against the wall. Robb wouldn't recognize me anymore. Tyrion looked up. That's because you're not the same man. Silence fell. Both men felt it. The quiet knowledge that their journey had changed them, slowly, like a blade rubbed smooth by time. A few days later, Daenerys called them privately. No courtiers, no dragons, just her, the two of them, and a map of Westeros. Stretched across a stone table, she pointed at King's Landing. It's time. You've decided? Tyrion asked. Yes, she said. The people chant my name. The cities bow. The world watches. If I don't strike now, I lose everything. She looked at them both. You two, will you lead the first wave? Ned blinked. You want us to lead the invasion? Tyrion raised an eyebrow. We're not generals. You're symbols, Daenerys said. One Stark, one Lannister. Both betrayed, both exiled. If you land with my army, it sends a message. Ned hesitated. What kind of message? That Westeros belongs to no house alone, she said. It belongs to those who survived it. It was clever and dangerous. Tyrion nodded slowly. You Want to use us. I want to win, Daenerys said plainly. And so it was done. Ships were prepared. The Unsullied boarded in silence. Dothraki howled from the decks, and on the largest ship of the fleet, Ned stood at the front, armor freshly oiled, sword at his hip. Tyrion stood beside him, adjusting a leather glove with shaking fingers. First time I've ever led anything that wasn't into a brothel. Ned managed a weak smile. Try not to get us killed. The wind was behind them. The dragons flew above, and for the first time since he left King's Landing in chains, Ned Stark felt the chill of purpose again. But purpose, like fire, could burn. The invasion began not in King's Landing, but in Duskendale, a smaller port city, less defended, but crucial. If they could take it, they could stage an assault on the capital from there. The landing was violent. The gates didn't open. They shattered. Unsullied poured in like silver water, blades flashing. Dothraki rode through the narrow streets, laughing. As they cut men down, Ned led the vanguard. He didn't shout commands. He acted. He struck down guards with swift blows. He broke through the barricade at the main square. Tyrion stayed behind, coordinating the second wave, giving orders through scribbled parchments, using smoke signals and bribed informants. By nightfall, Duskendale was theirs. But so were the bodies. Hundreds of them. Ned stood in the street, soaked in blood not his own. A young girl clutched a dead man's hand nearby. Her eyes were wide, her mouth silent. He knelt beside her, tried to say something, anything. But what came out was just a whisper. I'm sorry. The girl didn't answer. He stayed there long. After the fires dimmed. Later, Tyrion approached him looking pale. We won. Ned didn't respond. Tyrion sat down next to him. You think this is bad? Wait till we reach King's Landing. Ned looked up. How much blood does it take to build peace? Tyrion stared at the flames. All of it. And far above them, flying high in the night sky, Daenerys watched her new kingdom burning into shape. 3 days after the fall of Duskendale, the smell of ash still hung in the streets. It wasn't just the buildings, it was the bodies. Too many to bury, too dangerous to burn quickly. Ned Stark helped carry them at first, shoulder to shoulder with the Unsullied, dragging corpses into shallow pits. No lords, no titles, no banners, just flesh. By the 4th day, the flies ruled the city. Daenerys arrived on the 5th. She rode through the gates with her dragons screaming above, and a crown that didn't yet belong to her resting lightly on her silver hair. The people gathered in silence. No one cheered, no one dared. The fear hadn't worn off yet. When she saw the damage, her face didn't change. Not sorrow, not guilt. Just calculation. You held the city, she said to Ned and Tyrion as they stood before her in the ruined castle yard. I expected nothing less. Ned opened his mouth to speak, to ask if this was what she wanted, this burning, this blood. But Tyrion spoke first. The casualties were high, but the message was clear. Daenerys nodded. Good. Then let the world hear it. She turned to Grey Worm. Hang the sigil, the 3-headed dragon flies again, and so they did. Over the battlements of Duskendale, a red banner was raised, the Targaryen symbol. It flapped in the wind like a threat. At night, in the half-burned war chamber, Tyrion sipped from a cup of dark wine while maps were spread across the stone table. We need the River Lords, he said, tapping the parchment. And the Vale. They're key. The North won't come unless the rest of the kingdoms start to bend. The North may not come at all, Ned said, staring down. They don't trust Targaryens. Tyrion looked at him. But they trust you. Ned didn't. Answer? His hands rested on the hilt of his borrowed sword. It still didn't feel right. It wasn't ice. It wasn't his. I'm not a Stark to them anymore, he said quietly. Not after I disappeared. Robb fought, died. Jon... He stopped. He hadn't said Jon's name in weeks. Tyrion leaned back. Jon Snow's still alive, somewhere, and word is spreading that he might be more than just your bastard." Ned turned sharply. "Don't say that." "It's true, isn't it?" Tyrion asked. "He's a Targaryen by blood, Rhaegar's son." I said don't. Ned snapped. Silence fell between them. The air tightened. Then Tyrion sighed. "You're still trying to protect him." "I'll protect him till my last breath. Then pray Daenerys never finds out." And suddenly, it was there. The cold truth between them. They were allies. Yes, friends, maybe, but trust. That was something neither of them had fully offered. Later that night, Daenerys summoned Ned alone. She sat by the fireplace, her dragons curled like shadows behind her, their eyes glowing in the dark. "I see doubt in your eyes," she said. "Do you regret following me?" Ned stood still, arms at his side. "I regret the cost." "The cost of war is always high," she said. "But peace never comes without it." He looked at her. "What does peace look like to you?" She stood and walked toward the flames. "A throne not made of swords, a world where no child is sold for coins, where no girl is raped by a Lannister knight, where justice is not a joke told in taverns. And you'll build that world by burning cities?" he asked. "If I have to," she said, "if that's the only way they listen." He didn't speak, because what could he say? That she sounded like her father? That fire and blood was not a path to peace, but a road to ruin? He left her chamber that night with more weight than he'd entered with. The next morning, a raven arrived. From the north. From Sansa. Tyrion read the message first, then handed it to Ned without a word. "Winterfell stands, but not with you. Not with her. You are a ghost, father. We fight our own war." Ned stared at the parchment until his vision blurred. He could see her handwriting, the sharp lines of a girl who had grown too fast. "She thinks I abandoned them," he whispered. "She's not wrong," Tyrion said softly. "You did." Ned's knuckles turned white around the letter. That night, he stood at the docks, watching the sea. The waves crashed like whispers. He thought about leaving, just taking a ship and disappearing, vanishing into the east, starting over. But then he heard boots. "Daenerys, you're thinking of leaving," she said. "Not a question, a fact." "I don't belong here," he said. "You do," she said. "You just don't know it yet. Your war isn't mine. You made it yours the moment you stepped on that ship in King's Landing." He turned to face her. "You say you want peace, but all I see is more fire, more death." She stepped close. "Then help me make it less. Help me be better, be the conscience I need, or else let others twist me." He didn't know what scared him more, that she was asking for his help, or that part of him wanted to give it. He stayed. And as more ravens arrived, more cities whispered her name, more enemies fell, the fire grew stronger. And somewhere in the shadows, Varys watched it all, smiling quietly. Because even dragons could be used if you knew where to aim them. And sometimes the truest flames weren't in the sky. They burned in men. Smoke rose over Blackwater Bay again. Only this time it wasn't Stannis Baratheon's ships burning, it was the Lannister fleet. 300 sails, gold and crimson, turned to floating wreckage by dragonfire. Daenerys had finally brought her war to King's Landing's doorstep. But she hadn't yet entered the city. No comma that day was coming soon, and both Ned and Tyrion could feel it pressing on them, thick and suffocating like the heat of a forge. They stood in the ruins of a forward camp outside the capital, watching the last sails vanish into flame. "She's not waiting for surrender," Ned said quietly. "She never was," Tyrion replied. "Not really. She's giving them a chance to kneel, not a choice." "And if they don't kneel?" Tyrion didn't answer. Behind them, war tents flapped in the wind. Soldiers moved with hollow eyes, and blood-stained hands. The Dothraki were growing restless, the Unsullied tireless, and the Golden Company, what was left of it, had switched sides after the dragons turned half their army to ash. Everyone was afraid to say it out loud, but it was written on every face. King's Landing would fall, and it would fall hard. That night in Tyrion's tent, Varys entered unannounced. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Tyrion said, swirling wine in a tin cup. "I've seen something worse," Varys replied, voice low. "The future," Tyrion raised an eyebrow. "Do tell." Varys dropped a sealed parchment onto the table between them. The wax bore no sigil, just a plain red dot, a sign from one of his oldest spies in Old Town. "I've confirmed the truth. About Jon Snow." Tyrion's fingers froze around his cup. "You're certain?" Varys nodded once. "He's not Ned's bastard. He's Rhaegar Targaryen's true-born son, legitimate. His claim is stronger than hers." The words hung in the tent like poison. Tyrion picked up the letter, read it quickly, then slowly folded it. "Does she know?" "No." "Does he know?" Varys paused. "I believe he suspects, but he's too honorable to act on it." "Honor," Tyrion muttered, "gets good men killed." Varys leaned closer. "We may need a better option." Tyrion looked up sharply. "You're talking treason." "I'm talking survival," Varys said. "The realm cannot survive another mad Targaryen, and you've seen it. She's slipping." Tyrion didn't reply. He didn't need to, because he had seen it too. Later that night, he found Ned in the chapel tent, a quiet corner lit by candles, filled with wounded men, whispering prayers that the gods hadn't answered in years. Ned was sitting alone, sharpening his sword. A simple motion, repetitive, focused. Tyrion sat beside him without a word for a while. Then he said, "Jon Snow is Rhaegar's son." Ned's hands froze. "I knew you knew," Tyrion said softly. "You wear the guilt like a second cloak." Ned stared at the blade in his hands. "He's my blood in every way that matters." "But not your son," Tyrion said. Ned nodded once. "His mother was Lyanna. I made a promise. I protected him. And now the truth could destroy everything." "We've built," Tyrion said. "Daenerys won't take kindly to a rival, even one who doesn't want the throne." "She'll see him as a threat," Ned agreed. "And she'll act like her father." Tyrion stood up. "Then what do we do?" Ned didn't answer immediately. Then, finally he looked up, eyes cold. "We get him out." "Out?" "Out of Westeros," Ned said. "Far from the war, far from her." Tyrion frowned. "You think he'll leave?" "If I ask him to." And so they wrote a raven. Ned didn't sign his name. He wrote only what mattered. "Come to me. One last time, before the storm breaks." The raven flew west, cutting through black skies. Jon Snow, meanwhile, was in the north. Haunted by dreams. He saw fire. He saw Daenerys standing in a throne room made of ash. He saw a sword in his own hand, dripping blood. And he saw Ned Stark's face calling to him. He left before dawn. By the time he arrived in the camp outside King's Landing, the air was thick with death. The siege had begun. The bells hadn't rung yet, but everyone knew they would, or they wouldn't. And then the dragons would scream. Jon found Ned waiting by a tree just outside the war camp. They didn't speak at first. Then Jon said, "You lied to me." Ned nodded. "To protect you." "I never wanted a crown," Jon said. "Never asked for any of this." "I know," Ned replied, "but the truth doesn't care." Jon looked past him, toward the walls of King's Landing. "She'll burn it, won't she?" Ned didn't answer. That was answer enough. "You want me to run?" "I want you to live." Jon shook his head. "If I leave, more die." "If you stay, you die," Ned said. "She won't allow a rival, not after what's coming." Jon took a deep breath. "I'm not a Targaryen. I'm not a Stark. I don't know what I am." Ned stepped forward, placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're my son, and I'm asking you to trust me." And in that moment, Jon did. He agreed to leave at dawn. But dawn never came peacefully. Because someone had already betrayed them. Someone had told Daenerys the truth. And before Jon could board the ship, before Ned could say goodbye, before Tyrion could stop the storm, the dragons took flight. And the sky turned red. The sky lit up like the gods had split it open. Jon turned as a roar tore through the morning stillness. Not wind, not war horns, but the sound of wings and fire. The dragon's shadow stretched across the camp, swallowing the tents below. Drogon. The black beast screeched through the air, and a second later, fire rained down on the ships at harbor. The same ships Jon was meant to board. In a flash, the hulls exploded into splinters. Flames licked the water. Screams rose from the decks. Ned saw it all from the ridge. And he knew immediately, because someone had told her. Jon was no longer a mystery. He was a threat. Tyrion came stumbling from the central tent, eyes wide, his voice lost in the chaos. "A nose," he gasped. Varys told her. "I don't know how she found the raven, but she found out," Ned said, voice flat. "That's all that matters." Below them, the army scrambled, unsullied, formed ranks. Dothraki mounted horses. The siege was off. The burning had begun early. And Daenerys. She didn't wait for the bells. She never meant to. Jon stood in the middle of it, trapped between two worlds again. Soldiers ran past him. Ash floated in the air. Civilians had begun pouring out of the city gates, screaming, begging. Then he saw her. Daenerys, on Drogon's back, hovering above the city like a god of wrath. And her eyes were locked on him. Jon didn't run. He stared back. He didn't shout. He didn't plead. He simply whispered, "Don't do this." But he knew she couldn't hear him. And maybe, even if she could, it wouldn't have changed anything. Because in her eyes, he saw it now. Madness. Not the frothing, wild kind, but cold, justified, righteous, the kind that kills and calls it kindness. Above comma. The dragon turned. Its chest glowed. Tyrion screamed, "Run!" Ned didn't. He stood in front of Jon, a father, a shield, a final act of love. And then nothing. A flash of green, a roar that wasn't from the dragon. Wildfire. Tyrion had one last card, one last barrel buried beneath the soil at the base of the ridge. The explosion ripped Drogon from the sky, sending the dragon tumbling into the blackwater with a shriek that split stone. Daenerys was thrown from the saddle, crashing into a burning tower. The earth shook. Jon pulled Ned to his feet, coughing, blood on his lip. "You mad old wolf," Jon muttered. "You were going to die for me." "I wasn't going to," Ned said through grit teeth. "I still might." Tyrion staggered toward them, his face blackened with soot. "That was the last of it," he wheezed. "No more wildfire, no more tricks." But it didn't matter. Because King's Landing was already burning. Daenerys wasn't dead. She emerged from the rubble, bloodied, limping, but alive. Her face streaked with ash, her eyes burning brighter than the flames. When she saw Ned, Jon, and Tyrion standing together, she didn't scream. She smiled. And then the ground split. Not from magic. Not from dragons. But from the sound of bells. They rang, finally. From every tower, every steeple. A cry of surrender. Too late. Daenerys turned away. Walked back into the city. Let her soldiers follow. And let the killing continue. Ned watched in horror. Tyrion lowered his head. Jon stood still, fists clenched. "I can't let her do this," Jon whispered. Ned grabbed his arm. "Then don't. But if I strike her down, you won't rule. You'll be hunted, hated." "I don't care," Jon said. Tyrion looked between them. "Then do it, before none of us have a world left." Jon turned and walked toward the flames. Ned didn't follow. He couldn't. He had done enough. Later, that night, when the city was quiet, when the bodies stopped falling and the sky was no longer orange but just empty. It happened. Jon found Daenerys in the throne room. Or what was left of it. The Red Keep was a ruin. The Iron Throne melted into a puddle of twisted swords and black steel. She stood before it. Tears in her eyes. "I did it," she said when Jon approached. "They're free." Jon looked around. "No, they're just quiet now." She turned to him, confused. And he kissed her, a soft kiss. A goodbye. And then he drove the dagger into her heart. She gasped, not in pain. In surprise. And as she fell, she looked not angry, but betrayed. Just like every Targaryen before her. Drogon rose from the rubble and found her body. He didn't kill Jon. He simply took her in his claws and flew away into the clouds. Leaving only smoke behind. Ned was waiting on the shore. When Jon returned. No one spoke. Tyrion joined them minutes later. "She's gone?" Jon nodded. And Ned finally said, "Then we go too." Months passed. A council was formed. Peace or something like it returned. Sansa ruled the north, proud and distant. Bran sat in a chair shaped like a throne, though it wasn't the Iron Throne. That was gone forever. Tyrion stayed behind, called the Hand again. But Ned and Jon, they vanished. Together. They crossed the sea, quiet and forgotten, two ghosts from an age of fire. Sometimes people in the free cities spoke of a bearded man with a haunted look and a tall warrior with eyes like winter. No one remembered their names. And they liked it that way. Because some men are not meant to be kings. Some men are just survivors. And survivors carry scars the world will never see. But they remember. They always remember.